Thank you, Your Honor, council members. Historic Preservation Commission has had a lot of great achievements this year, and it's my pleasure to introduce the chair of the commission, Wendy McClure. Just hang right.
Hang right. Okay. Thank you for this opportunity. Good evening. We've been a busy commission this year.
Wendy, would you bring the microphone a little closer?
Sure. Is that better?
That's much better.
That's better? Okay.
You better stand taller.
Well, I can't do that. At this point, I'm shrinking.
I know the feeling.
So we have currently 7 members of the commission. We have some new additions, Aaron Stoddart and Chris Sokol in the last year. Joyce Reese, who is with us for many years, stepped off the commission. We have a student's position, so we actually have 2 slots open, and including a student position being one of them. And I know that Wayne will be, we want to thank him for his wonderful advice, and he's been a fabulous council liaison. And I know he's heading on to other things in January, and we're hoping he'll decide to join the commission. There's a seat open for you, Wayne. And anyway, one of our projects every year is to put together a newsletter. And this year, we hire Barb Coiner to help us with that. And this year, because we were going to be having the Idaho Heritage Conference on campus during the daytime and then in the city at night, we decided it would be fun to focus on the university's history, architectural history. So there's quite a bit in it. If you haven't seen this, it's really well put together, and it's pretty interesting, and there's copies lying around. So please take a look at it. In that, we also, another ongoing project every year is to try to recognize the positive, there's Orchids and Onions Awards. Well, the Moscow Historic Preservation Commission doesn't give onions. We just decide to focus on the orchids. And we look for projects that make a nice contribution to our community in terms of preserving its history architecturally, and showing energy and representing culture. And there are several here. You can see 2 of them downtown. Well, 3 of them downtown. One fairly historic remodel of Tim Kincaid's building on 3rd Street, and then another one which was a building that they kept peeling off layers and finding out that the history was gone, so they recreated it in a very eloquent way, and that's the building on your lower left. And then, of course, the city's own project, which Les McDonald championed, and that one showing maps throughout the town of historic, sort of outlining the historic district for Moscow. And then in the upper right, another building on Main Street, University of Idaho gateways, and several houses in the sort of south of 3rd Street, excuse me. We regularly give walking tours, and Nels Reese is probably the core of that, but I occasionally help him with that. For various visitors to town, and we did quite a few tours during the conference. We also take new students. University president, I understand the mayor had a personal tour with Nels a few weeks ago, and right. Also outreach and education. We today had the special opportunity. Nels and I are both faculty emeritus and in teaching, or used to teaching college students, and today we taught 1st and 2nd graders about the history of the Palouse. Mayor Lambert came and joined us and talked to I think you talked to the 2nd graders. Yep. And then we gave them a tour of downtown. We're currently, and then on the other end of the spectrum, we're currently working with the University of Idaho School of Journalism on their classes developing some marketing materials, meaning just how do you promote the commission and show people what we do, etc. And so that class is putting together materials that we're going to be reviewing and hopefully can put on the city rack just to show what our mission is, etc. And probably one of our bigger projects this year was being very actively involved in the Idaho Heritage Conference, which was held here in Moscow in September. Several of us on the commission worked with Mike and others, the Chamber of Commerce, to get the conference, Moscow, to be the site for the conference. So we won. I don't know if it was good or bad, but we we won the award. At any rate, it was a fabulous conference. It was very well attended. We exceeded the Boise first conference attendance last year, and by quite a bit, I believe. And it was a lot of work for the local committee, but we're glad that it's over, and we're glad we did it, and it was a smashing success. And then our biggest project this year, and I think you've already seen this, and it's already gone through council in terms of approving the nomination, but is the expansion of the Port Russell district. And we still have a couple of hoops to go through. Right now, the commission is reviewing, just tweaking the nomination a bit to try to be more inclusive in some of the contributing properties. And then we will forward our recommendations to our state architectural historian, and she will bring it to the State Historic Sites Review Board in June. They will approve or disapprove, and then if it's approved, it goes on to the keeper of the register in Washington, D.C. for final approval. So hopefully by next fall, we'll see an expanded Fort Russell district that really, we think, better represents what the neighborhood should be. So that's, and then we have, we're always visioning what we'll do next. There's several other areas of Moscow that are deserving of becoming historic districts potentially. There's some interest actually with the Arboretum neighborhood that goes back to the 1930s in terms of when it was planned, and also many properties south of 3rd Street, all the way over to the Torrey Highway can potentially form a district. So, and also more current architecture, anything more than 50 years old that's actually architecturally significant. So those are our, we also, A Great Good Country, which is a fabulous resource for our community and historians and young people. Anybody wanting to get a good sense of history about Moscow is out of print. We'd like to figure out how to get a grant to get it back in print. And that's something that we'd like to perpetuate. And in this case, another project is to look at really identifying our key buildings in the public buildings in particular in the vicinity of downtown, but outside of downtown, that are individually listed on the National Register, but also are icons in our community, and having some kind of interpretive signage about what they are. And that's something we need to work on in the next year. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Wendy, I want to make a comment about the Idaho Heritage Conference that I was able to get a chance to talk at in September, and that was something that was very well received, I thought, and it was exciting to find out that we beat Boise on the numbers, and anytime we can beat Boise on anything, it's a wonderful day for me. Personally in our town, but the neat thing about it was I got a chance to talk to a lot of folks from around the from around the state, and Nels Reese took people on a tour of some of the historic area, and so that's how I ended up going on a tour with Nels like a week and a half later, or maybe it was 2 weeks later. But anyway, nevertheless, him and I talked about it, and so we set up a time, and he took me all around, and Nels is the absolute perfect person to do that. I can't think of a better guy that can do that, because he's just excellent at doing that. So anyway, thank you. It was very, very nice, and of course, Mike is our city.
Right, Mike worked tirelessly on helping.
He sure did, so it was a big deal for us. But that's a big thing for our community, to get that kind of recognition. It's wonderful, and thank you for all your work.
Yeah, we were so happy to get the attendance we did. It was just really
Wayne, you got...
You bet. Well, first of all, I want to thank Wendy for chairing this commission. She does an excellent job of chairing it. She is thoughtful. She brings out ideas from the other members of the commission, and that's a sign of a leadership. And I want to thank Mike also. My goodness, you know, you're simply the staff liaison, but my gosh, you work so hard for the Historical Preservation Commission that you two are one of the reasons why that is my most favorite commission. In the 8 years that I've been on city council, I think I have been the council liaison for at least 4 and possibly 5 of those years. You know, I started off at the University of Idaho as a major in architecture.
I didn't know that.
Did in 1960, fall of 1967. In 1969, I had to leave the University of Idaho because there was a thing going across the other side of the world that was going on that got in the way of that. I lost my sight when it came to architecture after that, and the Historical Preservation Commission has instilled in me a real appreciation for those buildings that you showed. You know, it's been an education to me, and I want to thank you guys for that, and thank you for everything that you bring to the community, because you're so proactive, and everything that you do is for the betterment of our community. You know, the fact that we do have a history, and when we compare our history to the East Coast, I mean, that's where, you go back to 1600s there, but we have what we have, and you're an integral part of preserving that, so thank you.
Thank you. It's great to have lived in a community for so long that has so many fabulous resources to work with. So, thank you.
Thank you, Wendy, very much. Thank you, Mike.